Hey, hi, hello, friends, and I'm back post Thanksgiving. Hi, guys. How have you been? I hope Thanksgiving, if you celebrated it or if you celebrated something else, was amazing for you. I hope this past weekend was good. I had a pretty good time. I got to see all of my friends and family. It's been a while since I've really been to like a gathering, because even though we're like vaccinated and like my friends and family are mostly vaccinated, we've just really not done anything big. We've had like a very tiny bubble of friends who we've been like hanging out with, and it was like still that bubble but with like a couple of extra people and like more friends and family. So it was like a friendsgiving slash Thanksgiving. I don't know. But it was like friends plus their families and everybody together. So we had a really good time. I'm feeling refreshed. I meant to have this video up yesterday, but the day just got away from me because I got home and I realized I kind of didn't like my background. I've been like trying to set something up for a little while now, and I finally got this up. So let me know what you guys think, if you guys kind of like this. I do have a candle burning. Don't know if you guys can see it. There we go. There you go. There you can see the candle. It's a really nice candle. I got it when I was in San Francisco. I think the brand is called Artumi, and it's like an oak and moss smell. I really, really like it. It's a vegan candle if you guys are interested. I'll leave it linked down below. I don't have any affiliation with it. I just like their candles. And yeah, that will be all. With all of that said, let's actually jump in to talk about Chantal. To the surprise of absolutely no one, Chantal has gotten back together with Nader. There have been a lot of videos of them, like, she streamed from his house and talking about all the same stuff again, or it's basically just like, I have a lot of love for him and all of that garbage that she always says when she gets back together with him. There was nothing concrete. And then, of course, she has the breakup video because obviously they're still toxic, right? A relationship, I've said this before, a relationship can be toxic without being abusive, but in Chantal's case, it is both. And there is no possible way that they were just going to stay together and be happy and sail off into the sunset because they're not mentally equipped to be in a relationship. I don't think either one of them should be in a relationship, but especially I don't think that Nader should be in a relationship. Chantal is kind of like garbage toxic person, but I do think that, and I think that it's not good for her family and friends, but I think that when she is with another person and when they show her love and affection, she tends to go whole hog. If that doesn't alienate the other person and if they can deal with her constant need for attention and the lying and the manipulating, I think Chantal can handle a relationship, give or take. When it comes to Nader, he is an abusive man. He is going to be abusive in one form or another in most relationships, like romantic relationships in his life. So it tends to be a pattern of abuse when it comes to abuse in a relationship, domestic violence especially. And I don't think he should be in a relationship at all until he can go to therapy and work that out with himself, and maybe not even then, because I don't know what the recovery rate for assholes is, That said, she put up a video yesterday. It's called Wow. It's about an hour long. And essentially it's her being mad at him because they had a live together where she was being all like giggly and like, oh yeah, yeah, we're together. And he was saying, she didn't say that as much, but she was very much so implying it. Whereas he was just like, oh yeah, no, we're not together. And he was being very like cold towards her. And so I went through the video. It's about an hour long. There's actually more in there to discuss than I normally have. It's about 12 minutes. I know. That's going to be like 3 hours long. So what I'm actually going to do is divide this up into two videos. It's going to be part one is going to be here for you guys. Part two is probably going to be for either patrons or tomorrow, depending. I haven't quite made up my mind yet. And yeah, with all that said, let's actually jump into it, shall we?
Even though I act like a crazy person when I come on here. Like the whole live stream weekend was just a friggin' mess. Total mess. But certain things about it surprised me a little bit. Like, okay, I'm not okay with certain things, basically. Let me just say that. I'm not okay with feeling undervalued when I fucking put my neck, my heart, my soul out for somebody. Like, dude, like, we're not in a relationship? Okay. Edit your own videos then. We're not in a relationship then? Okay. Pay, like, support yourself then. We're not in a relationship? Okay, cry in your own arms then. I'm not like... this is just BS. And like reading through his comments, it's like people are actually like thinking I'm lying about everything that I've said on here, when I have not lied about a single thing that I've told you guys that has happened between us.
Okay. Here's the thing about being undervalued in a relationship. There is two things that you should consider. One, whether or not your emotional state is your fault, or whether or not the emotional state is the other person's fault, and whether or not this is a situation that's going to change, right? The second part we've hammered home a lot of times. There is nothing Chantal can do that is going to change this man. There's nothing really anyone can do to change a person. Change has to be something that comes from you. You have to be the one to put in time, energy, and effort to change who you are. And it's a lot more elastic when you're younger. The older you get, the more you kind of become set in your ways. The harder it is for you to really change who you are as a person. So, you know, if you come across someone who you just do not gel with, then I think that the smarter and emotionally healthy option is that you should walk away. Because I don't think this other person has the ability to like learn. I don't think this other person has the ability to change, really, unless they've shown you that they are the kind of person who's really willing to put in the effort and really change who they are. And there's no indication that Nader's like that. But for the first option, is the emotional state you or the other person? Like that is something that's a little bit harder to answer, right? I think in this particular relationship, when it comes to Nader and Chantal, I think it's a little bit of both. I think he definitely undervalues her. I think he definitely does not care about her. And no matter what she says, that kind of thing is going to translate on camera. You're going to be able to see that, you know, there is something wrong there. You're going to be able to see that definitely there is some kind of an issue, right? People aren't stupid. And Chantal, for all that she can be a little delusional, she's not an idiot. She reads the way that he treats her, and she might want to willfully forget, but it's hard to do that. And so he is very actively dismissive of her. He does actively only seem to want her for editing his videos and to provide him with money, whatever, sex, all those other things. He doesn't seem to actually care about Chantal, the person. But I don't think that's all of it. Because Chantal, you teach other people the way that you should be treated. And I've said this in a video before as well. But Chantal doesn't value herself. Chantal doesn't have any ability to see what is and is not a good relationship, how she should and should not be treated. And part of that manifests in a need for constant attention and a need for constant reassurance. And that's also not cute, right? You can't expect so much from the other person that you essentially drown them in your neediness. And by that I mean like the way that she like spam calls him. She'll call him like 50 times in a row so that like she will, you know, if he doesn't answer his phone the first time. That is not like a healthy thing to be doing. That is not an emotionally stable thing for you to be doing. Nobody likes that. It's not cute. It's not like people are going to think it's like, oh, she just really loves him. Maybe there's teenagers out there who feel that way, that if someone calls you like 15 times, it's a sign of affection. I'm telling you, if anybody calls me that much, I'm immediately going to assume that this person either is like going through a state of emergency or that they have a psychological issue. Those are the only two explanations for why someone would spam call me that many times, right? There is no need. There's nobody in my life who that is acceptable from, unless there's like an actual real emergency, right? Like this past weekend, I think I mentioned it on my Twitter, but one of my family members came down with viral pneumonia, not COVID, but still pretty bad. And, you know, I was out at that point. I had just left the house and I had like 3 or 4 phone calls, like one right after the other, trying to get my attention, being like, hey, we need you to come home. We got to take them to urgent care and just have them looked at, you know? And it was a lot. It was definitely a lot. But that's not what she does. She needs other people to validate that she means something to them. She needs other people to tell them that she loves them. She needs other people to continuously prove that they love her by like giving things up, by giving her attention, by abandoning friends and family the way she abandons friends and family for her romantic partners. She needs all of that continuously for her to feel like she's worth something to them. And honestly, that is not a sustainable model for you. That is not a sustainable model for anyone. If you are in an otherwise like fine relationship and the other person behaves this way, I would say that they're like they're not emotionally in a place where they're ready to really be in a relationship with you. And she often uses money as a way to, like as a stopgap measure, right? She will give you money the way that she does with Pete's, but then the other part of that coin is, the flip side of that coin is that you have to do whatever she demands of you. And she'll hold that money and she'll essentially hold it hostage to get you to perform what she wants you to do, whether or not it was originally part of the deal, right? And I think an example of that is the money that she still owes Pete's, but also to a certain degree that phone that she gave him. If you give somebody a gift, that gift now belongs to them. You can no longer go back and say, that's my phone. She wants to be able to hold that over his head. But at the end of the day, if you've gifted him something, it's now his. You don't have any possession over it. A gift is a gift is a gift. Unless you gave it to him with the intention that he will be grateful to you, and therefore when you ask him to do things, he will do them. You're relying on the other person's innate moral compass to really be able to manipulate them. And the problem is that up until now, all the people who Chantal has had an encounter with, the people that she really seems to interact with, have all been people of generally good moral standing and fiber, right? Pete is a little skeevy, but he is altogether fine, right? Like, I know that there's a lot out there vis-a-vis his fan fiction, and I don't know, my views on it are a little bit more complex. I think... if you guys don't know, I'm trying to remember what the content creator's name is, but it's like Princess something. But she does the It's Lit podcast PBS production with Lindsay Ellis, and they're both fantastic creators. But she recently did an entire video, and I think so did Sarah Z, talking about shipping and anti-shipping and kind of like the purity culture that plays into it, and the thoughts around what is and is not acceptable forms of fan fiction. I have, my thoughts on it are pretty murky and kind of complex, and I've told you guys multiple times before, I have no interest in reading romance or engaging with romance, honestly, in almost any medium. It's got nothing to do with fan fiction. I don't read romance novels or watch romantic TV shows either. It's just not a thing that appeals to me. So my views around it are pretty like lackluster, and I haven't really developed them any further. But I think those videos are a great example of why sometimes applying real world morality to fiction can be difficult, right? So the way that I view Pete's is a little performative and a little creepy, but for the most part, he's just kind of fine. The way that I seem to view BB is that he is altogether a good person who I think loved Chantal at one point and fell out of love with her, but didn't leave because of a sense of duty. And then she has friends and family in her life who are there at some points and not there at others. Her family seems to be mostly good people who love her despite her flaws and are trying to do their best. And her friends, well, to be very frank, I don't really think she has a lot of friends left because she tends to burn bridges very easily. So what you come down to is the fact that she's got all of these people who she's been in regular contact with, you know, not really very many friends outside of Pete's and maybe a couple of others. And she has taken advantage of them being good people to kind of get her way for a pretty long period of time. I don't think Chantal is unintelligent. I think that Chantal is fairly intelligent, if very unmotivated. And the way that I think this manifests a lot is that she tends to view like other people as gullible and stupid just because she thinks that she's gullible a lot of times, right? She like believe just about anything, but I think she discounts the fact that she wants to believe, and that's why she believes. Getting very sidetracked. The reason I brought up her intelligence is because she tends to equate the way that she is and her personal experiences with the experiences and the worldview of everybody around her. And it's not from a place of being dumb. It's a place of wanting to believe that she is an average, ordinary person and her experiences are universal. And because she's had these experiences where everyone in her life has believed her hoax for such a long period of time, she believes she can manipulate this man. She can turn what essentially should not even be one night stand material into boyfriend material. And that's not how these things go. When you've got someone who is as garbage as he is, I use that term fairly loosely, but for all that I think Chantal's a garbage person, I genuinely think he is a different breed of garbage. I think that if Chantal is just regular garbage, he's nuclear waste. I think he's toxic for everyone around him, and I do not want him in her or anybody else's life. So when you got someone like him, your choices are, if you come across them, genuinely your choices are just to cut and run and do what's best for yourself. You can't change people who don't want to change. And these are not lessons she's really ever willing to learn. And because she's been using this tactic of manipulating people emotionally and financially to get her own ends, I don't think she realizes that she has met someone who is much better at this game than she is. She is outclassed when it comes to being toxic. And she doesn't seem to realize that. I think she thinks that she has a monopoly in persuading people to see her point of view. I genuinely think that Chantal thinks she is an incredibly intelligent person, and she knows what she's doing, and she's playing this game and she's playing him. When in reality, he's most definitely playing her, and she has no idea what she's doing. No idea. It would be kind of like if I decided I'm going to cook Gordon Ramsay dinner. You know what I mean? He is the Gordon Ramsay of being a bad person.
I will stand by the fact that maybe I shouldn't have aired so much dirty laundry about somebody online, especially personal things like that. I didn't care at the time because I didn't think I would ever go back to this person, because who in their right mind, after what they've been through, would go back to somebody that's done all those things to them? And now it's so messed up that I just try to act really happy, and I think I realized
I don't think she should be airing any of her personal grievances online. And it's for a multitude of reasons, right? I think that when you put something like that online, you burn the bridge, you burn the ability to be able to reflect on your own actions. You burn the ability to really be able to take back what you said. There is a really big problem, I think, with the internet as a whole, where people don't seem to really get the room to grow that you do offline, right? I've said this multiple times about myself, but I have not always been as quote unquote woke as I am now. I have not always been as like the kind of person that I am now. I have both said and done incredibly toxic things in the process of growing up. I've done a lot of growing up, and one of the best things that I can say is that I had the privilege of not knowing how the internet worked for a very long period of time. And I think that kept me from getting, for example, like a Twitter account and saying and doing things that I, as an adult now, would 100% regret. Because who I was then is not a reflection of who I've grown up to be. But putting something out into the universe gives it its own life, right? And especially in the case of Chantal, for me, I am not particularly famous, even now, right? Like, I've got like a semi-decent following, and I appreciate each and every single one of you. But like, I'm not Mr. Beast over here, right? There's not millions of people out there watching me. But even then, even without that notoriety, there's still going to be a record. There's going to exist a record of me having said something that I thought was funny, but in reality was incredibly stupid and or toxic and or mean. And I don't think that Chantal gives herself that space. Sometimes you say and do things that you immediately regret and you don't take back. I'll tell you this as I think a fair example. I have had arguments with partner where I am actively arguing with him, and I realize somewhere in the middle of the argument that I am wrong. But I'm not willing to let it go, because then I would have to admit that I'm wrong. And as much as that sucks, right, and having to admit to one person that you're wrong is significantly easier than coming online and having to tell 90K people that you're wrong. And that's the problem with Chantal putting things online. It's sometimes, if you just sit with your own feelings without airing them to everyone, you can come to a realization that maybe this part of my behavior was wrong, maybe this part of their behavior was wrong, maybe it was the situation, maybe it was the circumstances, maybe we were tired. Right? Most emotionally complex problems have a lot of different factors that you need to consider, right? It's not as easy as saying black and white, you're wrong, I'm right, dunzo. That's not how the world works. But because Chantal puts it out there, it draws a line in the sand. And I think sometimes she gets herself in trouble, because part of the problem is that when you do something that's wrong, people on the internet, right, will tell you that you're wrong. There's like a law, it's not Murphy's law, but I forget what it is like the best way to get the correct answer on the internet is to put out the incorrect answer and tell people that that's the right one, and someone will feel the need to like show up and correct you. I forget what it is, but I think it's Cunningham's law. I don't remember. But it's kind of like that. She'll put something online believing that she is in the right, not realizing that in reality what she's saying is completely wrong, and then she'll get herself in trouble because she's unwilling to retract anything ever. Because the problem with Chantal is she puts so much of her life online, and so much of it is so problematic that she's constantly getting bombarded with people telling her this was wrong, this was wrong, this was wrong, don't do this, don't do this, don't do that, don't say this, right? And she has a little bit of that, like I think I mentioned before, and I think someone very kindly pointed out in the comments that oppositional defiant disorder is mostly for children, which is where I've personally encountered it. But, I don't know how that translates into adults, right? I'm not an expert on that. But she has a little bit of the need for defiance of anything she views as an authority. And so even when people are telling her, hey, you're wrong about something, she doesn't want to admit it. And then having to admit that she's wrong, right? First of all, she doesn't like to admit that people are right. That's one thing. She also doesn't like admitting that she's wrong. And it gets her into a lot of trouble. Don't share things online. And even when it comes to tweets, right? Say you're about to tweet something. I tweet stupid things a lot, but like, say you're about to tweet something and you're like, oh, this is an emotionally charged tweet and some people are going to have an opinion about it. I genuinely recommend saving it to drafts, thinking about it for like a solid 10 minutes, and then posting it. There's nothing wrong with having an opinion and standing by it. I have some pretty firm opinions that I don't really budge on, honestly, for most things. I've given you guys a few of them, whether they're with the grain or against the grain. It's just what I believe, and I'm not really willing to adjust my point of view. So like a big one that I have is I really don't believe in organic food. I know it's a weird one. I'm not going to get into it, but I have pretty complex thoughts on why I think organic is actually not great for the environment, society as a whole, and why I don't believe in it as a product in and of itself, as something that is better for you. But those are my own thoughts. I'm not going to change them more than likely unless there's some scientific evidence suggesting otherwise. The way that I feel right now is the way that I feel. And there's nothing wrong with standing behind your convictions. But there's a difference between standing behind your convictions and standing behind a statement that you made in haste. My thoughts on organic foods are thought out and based on science and based on my own personal interpretation of what I think is the best for society at large. Saying something like, oh, I really shouldn't have told you guys about the fact that he hid my keys, or the fact that, whatever, she had like a falling out with a friend, and then immediately backtracking on it, or like standing behind that statement. Even like the Shannon problem, I genuinely think that one of the reasons why she had such a big falling out with her, which if you guys haven't seen, she has a channel, it's called Salty Shannon, is that she put the information out there. And then she wasn't willing to retract it. She wasn't willing to, when she went back to Nader, she wasn't willing to come back and say, okay, I reacted in haste. I'm so sorry. You were in the right here. She stood behind her original reaction of, oh, well, you told my family and therefore you're a bad person for it. Even though, this guy was totally being very abusive towards me, abusive in every way towards me. And you were just worried about me. Because she's unwilling to back down from that statement, because A, she's put it online and she's got her online community of like backers, her enablers, her genuinely toxic positive people, and because she now sees everyone who's telling her that you were in the wrong as an authority figure, telling her that she is wrong and that she needs to fix it, and she doesn't like being told what to do. I think one of the best things that we can do, especially for like kids who are growing, like 16, 17, 18, 19. Honestly, I personally think people remain children until they're like 20, 22, even 25 is kind of when your brain stops developing. And I think people remain, in my head at least, as like very malleable up until that point. And I think we should be a little bit more considerate towards them during that period of time. As long as they show growth, I'm very much willing to forgive people being like kind of toxic when they're younger. Like I actually know some people in my life who were very like snobbish and very terrible when they were younger. And as they grew into absolutely phenomenal people. And you just have to give people that grace and not put that stuff on the internet, where I think a lot of times people assume that because you've said this thing, like no amount of apology is enough, no amount of sorry is enough. And for some people, it's no one's ever going to let it go, you know? And I do see that point. I do see that, especially when it comes to her. I do get where she's coming from. And that's why you shouldn't be putting it online. You can't have it both ways. You can't both put stuff up online and then claim, well, people are judging me for the stuff that I've said. And at the same time, you know, be unwilling to back down from any of your statements. All of those things are not things you can have. I can say things, stand behind my words until I'm proven wrong, and then humbly eat some humble pie. I said humble too many times, or I can't. I don't know. I think that was a little more rambly than I meant it to be.
How messed up it was last night, whenever someone was like bringing up the car keys, and I had told you guys previously that he hid the car keys on me like before. He didn't do that last night, but it happened before. And like I already told the story about that, so I didn't want to bring it up again. And then whenever he just like completely like made me look like a liar, I was just like, I realized that he only wants to benefit himself and doesn't care about how I look in all this.
I 100% agree with her on that. I do think that he does only care about benefiting himself in one way or the other. He doesn't give a shit about what Chantal thinks or looks like on the internet. It's not his prerogative. He doesn't care. And to be fair, it's not his lookout, right? You should be the one who should be concerned about the way that you look on the internet. And please, 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 and I know this is not anybody else's on anyone else but her, because she should be the one doing the lookout. But please, I'm asking you guys that if any one of you guys are Chantal's VIBsers, please do not ask her these kinds of questions when she is there with him. For all that this is not our responsibility, I think I have seen a lot of people, and I have never seen like a name that I recognize from my comments in there, but I have definitely seen people in there who will ask her these kinds of questions while he is there, while he is physically there with her. And I just want to remind everyone that he has stabbed someone before. Okay? Chantal has so many comorbidities at this point that I could not list all of them with like 5 hands. If she is ever in like a serious medical emergency place, her chances are a lot lower of making like 100% recovery than someone who is like peak physical health. So if you are the kind of person who's hoping to trigger some sort of an argument online, don't. Because he can turn that camera off and he can take that rage out on her in a way that I don't think any one of us wants. For all that I don't like Chantal, and for all that I'm sure a lot of you don't like Chantal, I am sure nobody here wants her to be unalive. So please don't ask her these kinds of things while she's there with him. Now, when she's not there with him, ask away. Because she seems to show no sense of keeping information to herself or protecting him when he's not physically there. And I think part of the reason is that she tends to puff herself up in the company of her hug box and think that she's a lot stronger than she is, right? I read the story about this puppy whose owner carried him around everywhere, and this tiny puppy got this complex that they were a much bigger dog because they were just used to being carried. And that's how she sees herself. She sees herself as this incredibly strong, incredibly intelligent, able to play other people kind of a person. She thinks of herself as just being fat and wild and sexy and like confident and intelligent, when in reality she is not any of those things, right? She is a mentally unwell, morbidly obese woman 2 steps away from death who spends most of her time with a man who anyone would classify as being toxic or being shut in her house. She has no relationship with her family. She has no friends to speak of. And that's not the Thank you. She doesn't have that kind of relationship with she doesn't have that kind of relationship with herself where she can see the truth of her own situation. And I think that if you can do it, or if you can point out the inconsistencies in her argument, every once in a while we get moments of poignancy from her. And I think they can only help. And I genuinely hope that with therapy, they'll become much more often and much more common. And we might actually see some breakthroughs. Who knows?
And that really stings. That really hurts, because it just makes my credibility less for somebody who really probably wouldn't do the same thing for me in the end. And the whole thing with like not reading this Sandy person's comment. This person, Sandy.
Before she gets into Sandy, she's had this realization multiple times that he would never reciprocate the kind of loyalty that she is showing him. And it never really leads to anything. She never, once more, she lets her train of thoughts be aborted. She never follows the train of thought to the very end, right? It's one thing to come to the realization of, oh, this person is never going to show me the kind of loyalty that I've shown him, to just to let it linger, then to come to where the final stop is on that thought train, which is, he doesn't love me and I deserve to be loved. And that's what it is. There's a lot of stuff that partner and I don't agree with. And I know that if there was some stuff that I did that he would like not stand behind my actions because he's like, no, I think you're objectively wrong. But I know that for the most part that he is my number one ally. That if I'm ever in like real trouble, he is the person that I would call. He is the person that I would turn to. Right? That's like why I choose the word partner. He is my partner in everything in life. In my highs, my lows, in my better judgments and my worst. That doesn't mean endorsing everything I do. It doesn't mean supporting everything I do. It does mean supporting me. It does mean helping me. It does mean loving me through my mistakes. It means doing what's best for me even when I don't know how to do what's best for myself, right? Like pushing me to taking like classes to learn Python, for example, which is not something that comes easily to me, but I think it can be really great. And he's like, there's some like free courses and you should go through them. And I've looked through them myself and they seem pretty legit. And, maybe you can take like a thing on Coursera. That's what I mean, right? He knows how much my professional development is important to me and he pushes me in the right direction. And he's gentle and kind about it. And I try and do the same thing with him. This is not a person that wants any of those things for you. And unfortunately, if you have to love a person to want those things for them. So if they don't want those things for you and they seem to show no interest in what you want for yourself, then maybe it's time to consider that they don't love you. And if they don't love you, there is no point in staying in this relationship. You have to let that thought land. You have to, it's like Cherry Berry says, you have to sit in your uncomfortable feelings.
Had a YouTube channel. I blocked them a long time ago on my channel. They're absolutely psychotic. They're the most vile of person. So like, I'm sorry to be a fucking EG. You can say I'm a fucking bitch all you want. She's a cross-eyed prostitute. And
all right, there's a lot that I have an issue with here. First, it's calling somebody psychotic. I'm not going to sit here and say that I haven't used it in that sense. It's unfortunately one of those terms that it seeps so far from its actual meanings into like just colloquial talking points that it's lost some of the impact that what psychotic actually means. It's a clinical term, right? But I think that for someone like Chantal who complains so often of being mental health shamed, I think it's particularly distasteful that she says this. You're calling another person psychotic, and you just in a previous video that I had mentioned have like mentioned how people are mental health shaming you. Would you like it if people addressed your actions as psychotic? They called you a psychotic? No. So maybe show somebody else that same level of courtesy. Second thing, she sits here and she says this, I think she said the words dirty prostitute. I don't remember. But using prostitute as an insult, there's a couple things here that I want to point out. One, you were going to hire a gigolo at one point. So if you are the kind of person who is willing to avail a prostitute's services, I would just like to say that you're more disgusting than they are. Because most people who fall into prostitution don't do it because that's what they wanted to do with their lives. It tends to be like the last resort for a lot of people. And you're essentially saying that I'm okay with taking advantage of that but I'm still going to degrade them as I do it. So that's kind of really disgusting of you. Second of all, there's really nothing wrong with sex work because it is work like all other forms of work. And a lot of sex work tends to be like part-time therapy and part-time sex. A lot of it is like giving people that kind of emotional release that they might not be able to find somewhere else. And the way that I've always at least seen and the way that I have heard it described and my personal understanding of it, though once more, very novice understanding of it, is that it's almost a little bit like therapy. Not everybody wants or needs the same thing. It's the ability to understand and recognize what people need. It's emotionally draining. It's difficult to do, and it requires protection from the law. And degrading human beings like that is not it. You can't sit there and use prostitute like an insult. For God's sakes, it's 2021, man. Come up with a better insult, right? I'm not saying I'm the most creative at them. I know for a fact that I'm not great at insults, but come on now. You're just using other people's misfortunes as a battering ram against someone. Like, you wouldn't like it if somebody came to you and said, oh my God, what a lard ass, right? If I called people a lard ass, that would be like fat shaming. Right? And that's unacceptable as far as Chantal is concerned. But even if this person is actually a prostitute, which I have no evidence to suggest that they are, even if this person is a prostitute, you're sitting there and you're using other people's misfortunes of not being able to secure other means of employment, and you are degrading them for it. Last but not least, I would just point out here that people in glass houses really should not throw rocks. You're on the internet humiliating yourself every single day for a little bit of money. And you're going to judge somebody else? Okay. You can say, oh, well, at least I don't do sex work. Did you forget that you made an OnlyFans? Did you forget that you said that you were going to get an OnlyFans and like have sex with somebody on there? You think that isn't the same thing? Did you forget that you're literally actively paying Nader, you're buying his attention right now? None of that rings a bell? That you flash people on camera every other day? No? All right.
And all my haters, especially the women, are gonna go, who are obsessed, are just gonna go and, I mean, these people troll him to try to get a reaction out of me.
Why did she say that? Especially the women. I think this community is mostly women, but that strikes me as being just a touch misogynistic.
I didn't not read her comment because I'm fucking jealous of her. It's because, hi God, Chantal's missing molars. Welcome. I'll welcome you all later. I'm venting, okay? It's because I know what they're trying to do with the comments, and I don't want to read them. I don't want to read into drama. And then for him to turn around after and give me shit on live after fucking telling me I can block people, or I said I'm not reading the super. You know what? I've created your channel for you. So if somebody is constantly bullying me on your channel and I don't want to read their super chat, or I want to block them for being nasty, oh, sorry.
Here's the problem with her train of thought here. It doesn't matter if they're being nasty to you. If you're there acting as a moderator, then it has to be what the other person wants. Which is why, like, I have very few mods on my channel. I go live very infrequently. But when I do go live, I've let everybody know. You can let pretty much anything stand. I don't care if they're calling me names. I don't care if they're being, like, generally mean to me. I don't give a shit about any of that. The only things I take an exception with are like doxing information, stuff about children. There's like a couple other specific things that I have a problem with. Those are the only things I'll ever ask people to block on my channel because I don't give a crap, right? When you are, and that's what she's doing. She's acting as a mod for his channel, right? An in-person mod, true, but as a mod. So you're sitting there and you cannot block people on his channel unless he specifically said, hey, being mean to Chantal is one of the things that I will not stand for. And if people don't amend their actions, then yes, you can go ahead and block them. But it doesn't matter. It's not about you, right? Because you took on a responsibility to base it on what he wants because it's his channel. Unless it's not his channel, unless you want to tell us that it's under your umbrella, then no, you don't get to make that decision. She cannot read a comment if she doesn't want to. She can just say, if I'm here, I'm just not going to read anything that I think I deem inappropriate or they're being particularly mean to me. I won't read that comment, right? And you can put that on lives as well where you're there, and then people who want to send you super chats and want you to read these mean comments, they've been warned. If they're still sending money, then, well, that's on them, right? But if they didn't know that, if they aren't aware of the fact that you're not going to read their comments and you're going into this situation with rules that they don't know are in place, then that's on you. It's not on them. You need to communicate that with them. As for him, just being like, oh, well, you're like giving me shit for not reading these comments. I mean, I think that he needs to grow a set and read his own fucking comments and not put her in charge of it. But I also think that she needs to grow a goddamn set and tell him, hey, I'm not going to be reading your comments. People are mean to me unless you're willing to make this rule and make sure everyone knows I am not going to be reading your comments because they are mean and I don't want to engage with it. I think both of those are fair things to do. Right? But if you've agreed to reading his comments and then you pick and choose which ones you want to read when he has made no exceptions for that, then no, you're in the wrong here. I'm sorry.
Sorry. Well, you know what? From now on, you can read your own super chats. You can manage your own channel because I will not be helping you anymore.
We'll see.
Okay? Like, done. Oh. Like, I think I've done my share. I've done nothing but give. And in his eyes, he's done nothing but give.
Because he sees it as a transaction. He sees it as you give me money and you give me all of this clout for my channel. And in return, I'll have sex with you. I'll give you the pretend boyfriend experience for a little bit, for short bursts of time, right? That's what I mean by, like, it's transactional to him. He doesn't see you as somebody that he loves. I don't have to do something for partner for him to do something nice for me. Sometimes he'll just do something nice for me because he cares about my happiness, because I care about his happiness. That's not what it is with you guys, because he has no emotional investment in it. And if you don't want this to be true, you don't like the way that he's treating you, you don't like the way that he's interpreting this, then leave. You don't get to sit here every single day and complain about blah, 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 blah. I needed this, I needed that, I needed X, I needed Y, and then keep going back to him. It's not going to change. He's not going to change. And all you do is you alienate more and more people every time you do this. Because every time you come on here and you act like this, less people like you.
He's been, the only thing that, like, I've done is talk shit about him online. But the shit I've talked has all been truth. The shit he talks is lies.
But you lie, so I can't believe that. And I would just like to say that I know it's like there's two sides to every story. There's actually three sides to every story. There's his version, her version, and there's the truth, which I do think lies somewhere in the middle. Though what I do think that when it comes to his abuse stuff, I think her version is a lot more true than his version is.
Lying about saying that you didn't do things that I say you did, lies. Coming online pretending like I disgust you or you're not interested in me, but then going off camera like last night. I'm going home then. Okay, go ahead. Go offline? Do you think you wanted me to go home? No.
I think some of this is definitely in her head. I think she perceives disinterest when people are ignoring her, quote unquote, not giving her as much attention as she wants. And I think she perceives interest when he shows her any any small iota of kindness. I think she says that a lot. She's like, oh, I think that guy was into me, when all he was doing was being just a generally decent person. It's like that, God, I'm thinking of Arrested Development, of like Job and Michael when they're like arguing about this girl, like I don't remember the exact details of it, but she doesn't seem to realize that not all affection means that someone like cares about you, and that sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Oh, I'm not gonna ruin my channel. I'm not gonna ruin my life. I'm going to Jamaica. I'm not gonna ruin my life for someone who doesn't even appreciate it. Dude, you're stupid. All you had to do was fake love me, show me the world, and I would have probably given you everything. Stupid as that would have been, sorry, I haven't even had water today. My mouth is dry.
And isn't that the saddest thing of all? Which is like, all you had to do was pretend to love me, and I would have given you anything. And I don't even think she realizes how sad that statement is. How sad it is to think, oh yeah, all you had to do was pretend to love me.
No.
And he's not stupid. He doesn't have to pretend for long. He knows that he just has to throw you a few crumbs of affection, and you'll come crawling back on all fours and kiss his feet while you're there. So, there's a lot of stupidity in this, but a lot of it is on your end.
I want sympathy super chats. You can't refund your super chats. That's a myth. And on top of that, there's no hatred toward my VIBzers. You're delusional and stupid. But thanks for your money.
Okay, so someone here is giving her money and she's calling them delusional and stupid, but no hate towards her VIBzers, of course, you know. As for the super chat thing, can someone tell me if that's true? I don't actually know, because I don't tend to give money to channels that I don't fully support, right? I will only really throw out coin when I think that when I genuinely really like their content. I'm not a patron for anybody yet, though there are a couple of people that I really want to become a patron for. I'm just kind of lazy. I haven't done it yet. But I do want to become patron for a couple people because I want to contribute. I want to do something for them. Also, for some of them, it's like extra content. I would love that. But when it comes to just her talking like this, she's such a piece of shit. She talks down to her VIBzers, to her paying subscribers all of the goddamn time. All the live long day, she's an incredibly garbage, toxic person to them. So when she comes on, she's like, there's no hate towards my VIBzers. You're delusional. Ma'am, you're delusional. And a liar. Because you have came on here and you've been a raging bitch to them so often that it's actually ridiculous. And she says this while she's being a raging bitch.
These haters are fucking with you. I know, I realize that. Like, just, like, reading his comments, like, have fun with your hater. Like, seriously? Like, you're gonna, like... What pissed me off was his reply to some of the hater comments. Like, some people saying the nastiest shit. Like, she's not good for your channel, Nader. Change your password and shit and all this and that. And, like... And he's like, thanks, I will look into it. Like, excuse me? You fucking... Like, if it weren't for me... Like, he thinks he's just magically... He'll be like, oh, my video only got 3,000 views. You realize that, like... If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have any at all? Like...
This is probably going to be the last clip I discuss in this video because it's already gotten real long. But I agree with that 100%. I said this multiple times. There are videos out there of people cooking. There's videos out there with better production quality, with better looking individuals, with more informational content. Like, my personal food channels tend to be like foodwishes.com. With Chef John. He is my personal idol and I love him. But there's a lot of other people that I also watch. So, like, if you guys are ever like watching food stuff on Instagram, Milk and Cardamom is one that I really, really love. I think her recipes are fantastic. I actually own her recipe book, which, by the way, if you guys are curious, down here is where I keep all of my recipe books and all of my, like, fabric scraps. And I don't see any reason for anyone to want to watch him other than what he provides with Chantal. I'm sure there's some people out there watching purely because they like his recipes, but I'm also sure that the vast majority of people watching are watching because they want all the side drama when it comes to Chantal, because Chantal is messy and it spills over into his channel. Right? That's why I think some of his most watched videos tend to be his lives and not really his cooking stuff. So I agree with her on that. But they're not wrong when they say she is not good for your channel. Do not give her access, change your passwords. What are you talking about, Chantal? Do you have so little clarification into your own actions that you don't realize that you went into his channel against his will and deleted a video against his will? Because that's what you said you did. You said you went in and deleted a video because you didn't like what he was saying in that video and you got mad and whatever, in the heat of the moment you deleted it. So what's to stop you next time from going into his channel and deleting his whole channel in the heat of the moment? Because you seem to have very little control over your impulses. Despite the fact that I think that he's a horrible garbage person, I think that the intelligent move here would be for him to change his password and do that option where it logs you out of everything so that Chantal no longer has any access, and not to give her any access. Learn how to fucking edit a video on your own. It's really not all that difficult. Like I said, an idiot like me could figure it out. Therefore, I know that he should be able to, right? Figure out how to edit your own videos and do not give anything to her like that, if that's what you really want. But what I think, the reason why he won't do that is because the drama drives his channel. She might delete a couple of videos, but he's going to get so many more views on the next one he puts up because that's what's going to drive the engagement, right? And I'm not entirely sure, but I think that when you delete a video, I think the views that you garnered from it still stay on. Can you imagine if she deleted his channel, how many more people would flock to the brand new one that he would create? I'm 100% sure that that channel, the new one, would surpass the old one by like many more thousands of subscribers. So, once more, I come back to, I think that he's a garbage person, but people who are telling him to get Chantal out of his channel, they're not wrong. That will be it for this video. This is going to be part 1 of 2 parts. I've actually, in the course of making this, I made up my mind. I'm going to put this and part 2 up tomorrow, and I'm going to have for my, I haven't uploaded for my patrons because I'm a bad person and I'm terrible at managing my time. But I'm going to have a video out for my patrons tonight, and that's going to be for the live that she's currently uploading. So I'm going to make a video after I've been recording this. I'm probably going to record that, and I'm going to have that up for them tonight. So if you guys are curious and want to become patrons, consider it. You'll get an extra video out of it. And that will be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you hated it, go ahead, give me a thumbs down. Subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. Hit the notification bell down below. Hit all if you want to know when I upload any videos right away. I've got all my social media linked down below. I've got Instagram, Twitter, and I've got Patreon. I just mentioned that. Think about it. You could get extra content. And if you guys are curious, this mug was a present. That candle in the back is a small business. Please shop small businesses for Christmas, Thanksgiving, all of those things. Don't give your money to big box stores. Don't give your money to Amazon. And yeah, as always, I'm Jasmine, the sequel, and I am not relatable. Peace. A special thank you to my patrons, Acrophobe, Ariel M, Christina, Courtney EP, Dainty B, Lori H, Sidra Z, Colleen L, Debbie E, Justa Jude, Kate O, Sonia P, and a special thank you to my $25 patrons, D Higgins and Oceana Song.